Halloween 2018, or David Gordon Green's Halloween, or the new one, whatever it's called.
Halloween 1.5. It makes sense because the first two-thirds of this movie is essentially a remake, and then everything that's original that culminates by the end of the movie is terrible. But I guess we'll talk about that later.
I guess we will. Spoilers, we didn't really like the movie that much. It was
No?
disappointing. Not a terrible film. I don't want to sit here and say, like, this is Halloween Resurrection or, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch or something. We're going to get into some spoilers. We're going to talk about spoilers because I've already reviewed the film. It wasn't really for me. But there's so much that I wanted to cover that I just couldn't. I could only really hint at it, like certain things that occur. Breakdown of the plot: basically, a bus crashes and Michael Myers escapes, and he starts killing people on Halloween night again. There's not really much significance to it, which is fine. A Halloween movie should be simple. But I think my biggest issue with the movie is that it felt very unfocused. It would go from moments of really odd placed comedy to Michael Myers is killing people to a backstory with a granddaughter, a backstory with a daughter, and a backstory with the grandmother, Laurie Strode, who I thought was going to be kind of the main character of the film, but to be honest, she kind of felt secondary to like the high school characters.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted more Jamie Lee Curtis, and the movie didn't need anyone else besides Jamie Lee Curtis. You had the insignificant granddaughter, who is the teenager of the movie. And once again, this movie is just pretty much taking what the original movie did and finding a way to kind of just place it in this movie, but it doesn't quite feel right the way they shoehorn it in there.
Yeah, it felt like there were sequences that were straight out of the first Halloween, and one in particular from Halloween 2, which is actually in the second trailer. It's this really long shot of him bumping into two trick-or-treaters, and then he walks into a garage, gets a hammer, then he kills a woman. There's a sequence just like that in the opening of Halloween 2.
It's a great tracking shot.
Yeah, no, I mean,
great.
it's good, it's well done, but like, it just felt so much like what we had already seen before. But then there were other scenes that were like kind of very shaky and close up, and that was like where David Gordon Green felt kind of more like the movies I've seen from him before, like Joe and Nicolas Cage. He has such a strange filmography. Like, he made Your Highness and The Sitter.
And then he makes like human tragedy movies like Stronger.
Exactly.
And but the thing I will say about him as a director, as far as like understanding Jamie Lee Curtis's emotions and Michael Myers' emotions and getting those two characters right, as a director, they picked the right guy.
Yeah.
For everything else, they picked the wrong guy.
Yeah, I really don't know if it was the right choice, and I know that plenty of people will disagree. I feel like maybe a more seasoned horror director, like someone like, say, James Wan.
Oh, that would have been great. Could you imagine those visuals?
That would have been pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
I think it would have been something special.
The only thing I loved about this movie, like you said earlier, sometimes they recreate what the original did visually with the tracking shots. There's like one shot of the granddaughter running down this desolated street, but they're just recreating these scenes.
Yeah.
That was the best part about this movie. Everything original that they brought to it is underwhelming.
Yeah, and that's not to say that I think they should have just done the same thing again. That's actually, I think what you're saying is it's disappointing that the best parts of the movie were the rehash parts.
Yes.
Yeah. I did like how they took things from the original and sort of switched and swapped things. Like, the granddaughter looks outside of the class, and instead of seeing Michael there, she sees Laurie there. My favorite little moment in the movie was when Laurie falls down. Yeah, she's on the ground and Michael's looking down at her, and then she's gone. I was like, oh shit, that's pretty much like another swap moment from the first movie. And I love the idea of Laurie kind of becoming the predator in that scene and Michael's the prey. Like, the roles get swapped, and that's a really interesting thing to do with this movie. And that's about where the things that I loved kind of end.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the things that we hated now, where those start.
Yeah.
Rip off Dr. Loomis.
Oh my god.
Was probably the worst character I've seen in a horror film ever.
I hated the character before the big twist thing.
Oh, he was creepier and scarier than Michael Myers has ever been. I'm like, how is that guy a doctor, and why does anyone trust anything that he's saying?
Even Laurie Strode says, "You're the new Loomis."
Yes, blatantly puts it out there.
It's like the most meta moment ever. Yes, this character is pointless in the film, really, beyond some really crazy third act twist I'll get into in a second, but every single time it cut back to him, I just kept thinking to myself, why is he in this movie? Why didn't he just die on that bus?
Yeah.
Why do we keep having the replacement Loomis? You're not going to replace Donald Pleasance.
No.
So just don't try. Like it's a smart thing to not try, and they tried, and
No, we got this guy.
we got this dude. I mentioned in my review there's a moment that was just so baffling to me, and when the film ended, I think you, my wife, and our other friend, we all looked at each other and we were like, "What was with that? Like, can anyone explain that?" And basically, the one cop in the film, Will Patton's character.
Yeah.
He hits Michael Myers with his car, and he gets out and checks if he's dead or whatever. And I remember from the first moment in that scene with the doctor, he said something like, "Oh, you killed him!" I was like,
He's dead.
I was like, good. That's the point.
Yeah.
Why are you so mad? And then he has like a retractable pen knife.
Yes.
He goes like, boop, it goes, whoosh, and a knife comes out of his fucking pen, and he just stabs the cop like a billion times in the face. And he just kind of takes over the night and says like, "Hey, Michael, let's experiment more with what you can do."
Very forced, contrived, and terribly written.
I hated it.
Plus, as a doctor, this guy's been a doctor for 45 years, right?
Right.
A psychologist, working a normal job. Just one day he says, "I'm going to start killing people." For what?
That's what I said afterwards.
It wasn't clever.
I was talking
Yeah.
to a buddy and I was like, what was his plan for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll go back to work. Yes. That'll... Yeah,
This cop car has no camera.
it would have been okay if he was a little bit creepy and he had that mentality that he wanted to see what Michael would do if he was unleashed. That's fine. If he would have just sat back in the background and allowed it to happen, but actually interacting and killing people, that's not clever. And even in the beginning of the movie, when the bus crashes again, I'm thinking, that's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Can people not, like, how did that happen? But now that, the doctor probably provoked that situation, it makes sense, but...
There are things that it makes a little more sense,
Yeah.
like in the opening scene where the two journalists, which I'll talk about in a second, are antagonizing Michael holding that mask. I was thinking, like, this doesn't make sense. But, if the doctor is in some way, like, experimenting with, like, the boundaries of evil or whatever, then, okay, then that makes sense. But I do not believe that any, as you said, decades-long trained, experienced doctor would throw a teenage girl in the back of a police car with Michael Myers just to see what happens. It's just stupid.
Well, we already know what's going to happen. Michael Myers likes to fucking kill people. He's probably going to fucking kill people.
Yeah. But the worst part of this whole thing is that within a minute, Ryan Gosling drives the guy's head, and it's just done.
Yeah.
They just completely throw it away. He stomps the guy's head into mush, and that's it. So we had like this random, horrific twist that existed for exactly 2 minutes, and then they just threw it away. It's like they shot the scene,
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, this doesn't make any sense. Forget about it. Obviously, that's not what happened. They wrote it and they filmed it, but like that's what it feels like. It just feels like this very throwaway moment that was so maddening and unnecessary, and then they don't even follow through.
No, I think it ran its course as far as it possibly could. And speaking of that doctor's head that squishes so easily, like...
It was like a gusher.
Yeah, like a balloon with spaghetti in it. Like, what? Like, heads don't squish like that. Trust me, I know, Chris.
I know too.
Yeah.
That one day
Mm-hmm.
in the back alley.
We don't speak of that.
No, oh, sorry.
I still remember the screams when I close my eyes. To go back to those journalists that were so inept, I think they were podcasters.
He said that.
Yeah.
He did say, he's like, I run a podcast.
I want a podcast.
And
Hello.
she's like, we're investigative journalists. I was like, okay, which one is it?
Yeah. So,
Maybe they're both.
within the first 5 minutes of this movie, where they first have their interaction with Michael Myers, I knew this wasn't going to be that clever, well-written, thought-out Halloween movie that I was hoping it was going to be.
Really?
For the simple fact of one of the podcasters, this guy makes fucking podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
He pulls out Michael Myers' original mask. Keep in mind, this is evidence from a serial killer.
Mhm.
This is like, you don't just pick this up. He says he has a friend at the Attorney General's office. So you're telling me this guy, oh, I got a friend who makes podcasts. Let me just go to the evidence room and pull out that serial killer's mask from 40 years ago. And here you go, buddy.
Well, John,
Yeah.
I really have to say,
Yeah.
as someone who's made videos and content on the internet for almost a decade now, I have a lot of friends in the police department.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Tons of people constantly give me access to government, property and evidence and
Yes.
paperwork
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah, it's like, why not? Here, you need a prop? This was used in the murder of a 9-year-old little girl in Wichita, Kansas. But hey, you got it for your video, so that's awesome. Just make sure you return it when you're done. There you go.
In all seriousness, those journalists were literally in the film to give us exposition about the backstory that the majority of the audience already knew. Most of the time is literally them just emphatically stating the backstory and to give him his mask. That's it.
They were there to give him his mask.
And there's so much screen time dedicated to them, which is so strange to me. Because they also try to set up this high school romance and a love triangle where the girl has a boy she likes, and then there's another boy that kind of likes her, but he doesn't want to admit it yet. She goes to a dance, and what does she see? The boy making out with another girl. So that's not good. That's very sad. I literally just saw this scene in Goosebumps 2. The exact scene is
Really?
in Goosebumps 2. The exact scene. A girl likes a boy, they're kind of together, she goes to a club, and she sees the boy making out with another girl, and she gets jealous and she runs off. Exact scene. I mean, it is one of the most cliched high school romance things I've ever seen. Granted, Halloween 1978 is not some masterpiece of writing. It's just a really well-crafted horror film.
But it doesn't waste your time.
No, it doesn't.
As a viewer. Everything is to the point. And I will say this before we jump into that. I do want to talk about the original, but the only reason that love triangle existed was to get rid of her cell phone.
That's it.
He threw it in the chip dip,
Yeah.
and now no one can call her.
And that's one of my
That's
biggest
it.
issues with this
Yeah.
movie is the screenwriting is actually kind of really lazy.
It
like
is.
the characters, the journalists,
Yeah.
they're there to give us exposition and to give Michael the mask. That entire thing is to get rid of her cell phone so no one can call her.
Yeah.
I mean, when your characters exist purely to be plot devices that propel the plot along without really being people, that's what they come off like. And that's exactly what they come off like in this movie. I know nothing about the journalists. I don't care about the journalists. I don't care about the teenagers. And granted, like, there's a thing with slasher movies where everyone's kind of a disposable possible victim that Michael could kill. And I get that. It just doesn't really do anything for me, really.
See, I have a critique that would fix 2 issues with this movie and would have simplified everything and took 20 minutes out of the screen time.
Okay.
The crazy doctor, let's just say he has the mask and evidence and gives it to Michael Myers early on in the movie. So we don't need the journalist. The granddaughter of Laurie Strode, she's running away from Michael early on in the movie, drops her phone. Boom, 2 things done. You don't need all this other crap in the movie.
Yeah, even the scene of like the teens walking through the suburbia, which was straight out of Carpenter's original. That scene was basically there to set the characters up, but also to give more exposition. Where somebody's like, hey, wasn't Michael Myers Laurie's brother or something? And they're like, no, that was a myth somebody made up to feel better about themselves. We're not stupid, okay? We've heard you say 1,000 times over you're forgetting about the other Halloween sequels. Yeah. I get it. They're not siblings anymore. They're not related. It's just, there are so many scenes like that where I felt like I was being talked to.
Like a little kid.
Yeah. Instead of presented a compelling narrative.
The most frustrating thing about this movie was when I was watching it, I kept comparing it to the original film, which is only fair. It's essentially like a direct sequel. Mm-hmm. And from a technical standpoint, a cinematography standpoint, and an atmospheric standpoint, the original is superior in every single way. It even has a better score and soundtrack than what they were able to do in this movie, which that movie was made for a low budget 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Why is it better in every way? Even the opening shot in the original Halloween, that tracking shot, that POV tracking shot, that shot alone is better than any shot in this new movie.
It still gives me chills when I watch it. Take James Wan, for instance. You know, he made a lot of horror films. He made Saw. He made Dead Silence, which wasn't really that good. Mm-hmm. Insidious 2, The Conjuring, Conjuring 2. He knows the genre back and front. I mean, but he also knows like what horror fans have seen 1,000 times. And this movie tends to think, well, Michael Myers is walking around a street and there are trick-or-treaters, so that's good enough. And there isn't really that scene that I recall as like, wow, that really had me white-knuckled. Like, that was really intense. The closest device that they kind of had that I thought was pretty interesting were the searchlights. in that scene where Michael was like getting closer and closer to the kid as the lights went on and off.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
One of the issues though is that I did not give one single shit about this kid, and I was like, just get it over with.
Just kill him now.
Just do it. Please get it over with.
Yeah.
There were also scenes that were just straight out of other movies. We already talked about some of the tracking shots, but the bathroom death where Michael randomly takes someone's teeth and drops the teeth in front of the woman, that was pretty much just like H2O. I mean, Michael bursts into a bathroom and kills the woman.
Where else does he get a mechanic's jumpsuit though, Chris?
Exactly.
Come on.
Let's talk about those teeth for just a second.
Sure.
Why? Why do you think he did that? Now, in this film's defense,
Okay.
Michael has shown a flair for theatricality before. Like in the first one, he takes the Judith's grave.
Deception.
Theatricality and deception are powerful agents to the uninitiated.
But we are initiated.
Man, we're nerds.
Maybe he was going to make a necklace with the teeth.
Like in Jurassic World? That's my dino tooth necklace.
That was a plot point in a movie.
Yeah, it was. But seriously, like in the first Halloween, he took Judith's grave and he put it on that bed.
Yeah.
You know, he came in that one room with the sheet on. Like he has like a weird kind of trickster mentality. Mm-hmm. So I get that. Like he's like, I'm gonna scare this woman with these teeth. I remember even when I saw it in the trailer, I was like, what's he doing with the teeth? Did he just kill that guy and just kind of like take out his teeth and then punch him a few times, take some teeth, and then go like, I'm gonna drop it right in front of that woman?
Well, it did seem like Michael Myers in this movie, and they showed a few times, he likes to rip people's jaws off.
Yeah, he did.
In this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't. Maybe over the years he got some kind of weird fetish for teeth and ripping the jaws off people. I don't know.
He's just sitting there in his mental institution thinking about like, I can't wait to collect those teeth.
Look at those teeth, man. Maybe he wants to be a dentist. But I do have a few positive things I can say about the movie. The little kid that's being babysat in the film is the best character in the entire movie.
I don't know why, but you're right.
And he was a comic relief that worked and felt right within this film.
Yes.
And I really liked that.
Me too. I like that kid. The girl was on the phone talking about Alakadabra or something, Alakazam, and he was like, you talk about weed, aren't you? I know you talk about weed. I was like, that's funny. That's fucking funny. And when Michael's in the closet, he's like, oh, fuck that. And he walks and runs
away. I'll go get help.
Yeah, that's funny. That's very funny. Yeah. And that should have been about the extent, maybe, you know? But then you have like two cops in a car, and the guy's like, this is a baguette sandwich that was made specially for me. It's very important to have your nutrition and then the he's like, what do you have? And he's like, oh, I got a brownie and some chocolate pudding. And the guy's like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have that for lunch. That's like for a 5-year-old. And I'm like, what?
But then I have friends at a Korean restaurant that made a peanut butter and jelly baguette just for you.
Yeah.
It goes on for 3 minutes.
It felt like an improv scene.
Not a very good one.
No. I was just starting to get into this. What is happening? Why are they talking about a fucking sandwich?
And then 5 seconds later, we get the terrible plot twist of the movie. Yeah. Which just, that right there, I knew it was coming. Part of me knew that was coming since the bus accident, because I was like, why is he the only guy left alive on this bus?
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, though, no, they wouldn't do that.
No. There's just so many random moments like that where it felt like they were being really funny. Or trying to be funny. And then it just doesn't have a place in the film. It takes you out of the experience. It takes you out of any tension.
They wrote everyone to be really unlikable in this movie, except for Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
And
that one kid.
Yeah, except for the little kid. And you want everyone to die in this movie, a brutal, gruesome death. I was like, please, Michael Myers, take their jaw and rip it off.
That's made what they were thinking. You know, like, we'll make everybody hate these characters.
Root for him.
So no one cares. Oh my God. I forgot about the dad.
He also does improv throughout the movie, too.
He's like, there's this whole scene where he's like, I got peanut butter on my penis.
Yeah.
What? Like, what is this? What?
Excuse me, sir?
Why are you having a scene about, and it's like focused on the dog, and she's like, Dad, oh, Dad, stop talking about that. It was cringeworthy.
Yeah, and he's a comedian, but throughout the whole movie, he sort of is just like is standing in the background looking goofy. Like, there's, like, police and everyone's, like, in this emergency state, and he's just back there going, I don't know what to do.
I don't know what was happening. I really don't.
There was some miscasting going on.
You could say in its defense, they're taking a risk. They're trying to do something different. They're trying to insert comedy. But you know what I see? I see studio decisions. I
Sure.
see somebody saying we have to have young people in this movie. We have to have a high school dance. We have to have a love triangle drama. We have to have all of this because Halloween's a slasher movie, and that's the demographic for it.
But wait, to switch it up, Chris, throw in a big twist.
Yes,
We need the twist.
throw in a twist, and please have like comedy because everybody loves Marvel movies.
We love it.
Whenever somebody's in a life and death situation, you know what they do? They tell jokes.
Yeah, they do. They do.
That time in that alley
Mhm.
when we were killing that guy,
Yeah, I was stomping his head in, yeah.
all I wanted to do was do a stand-up comedy routine.
I wanted to get peanut butter on my penis. I wanted you to put it there.
Oh, I'm crying. Hold on.
Talking about this movie makes me want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like,
That sounds good.
it does. Yeah, on your penis.
Another thing I did really like. I did like Judy Greer. Like, she was like, oh, I can't take the shot. And Michael's like, okay, fuck you, and walks. And she's like, gotcha, and shoots him. That was pretty cool.
I like
and then,
that.
like, Laurie's in the background in the shadows, and her face in the shadows. Kind of like Michael coming out of the shadows in the first one and slicing her shoulder. But, like, this movie was advertised heavily as the final confrontation where Laurie will finally kill Michael. And she sets the house on fire, and you have this shot of Michael standing there on the stairs, and then they're in the back of a truck, and you cut back to that exact spot, and he's gone.
He's gone.
And then, inexplicably, they zoom in on the daughter holding a bloody knife, freeze frame, and then cut to black. Are they saying she will be the next character in this new franchise that Blumhouse will probably inevitably make? Or are they suggesting that she will be in some way impacted by this scenario, go down a dark path? Like, what is... That was very off-putting to me.
They'll make another one for sure, but you know, if you wait until the very end of the credits, though, 8 minutes later, you can hear heavy breathing through a mask.
Yeah, we sat through the credits.
Right at the very end. So, which is, hey,
He's still alive!
He's still alive, but we don't know how the hell he did it. He was trapped in a basement and burned alive. Which, by the way, Laurie Strode's plan to kill Michael Myers was very convoluted.
I did like how she had those gates that shut off the rooms. Like, okay, he's not in there, shut the room. Like, I like that. It was like, okay, we're scratching that room off the list.
Yeah.
We're scratching that room off the list. But no, you're right. Like, there's so many ways that it could have gone or not gone.
Well, okay, she has these giant spotlights on top of her house, which she decides to turn on after he's in the house. She cages up every single window in the house, except for the 2 windows on the front door where he inevitably grabs her throat through them. She has 28 guns in her basement. One of them is a fully, automatic assault rifle shotgun, but she picks up an old, revolver. And then she has this panic room in the basement under this kitchen cupboard, but you can open it with, this garage door opener, but she leaves the garage door opener on the counter where anyone could just open it from upstairs. So I just don't get her logic with anything that she was actually doing.
Yeah, I can understand.
But it was really cool.
It's like Skyfall!
No, it was almost like the same logic Kevin McAllister uses in Home Alone. It's like, just get some paint cans and micro machines and Christmas bulbs. It'll do the trick.
You give up, Michael, or are you thirsty for more?
And then Michael hangs Laurie Strode on the back of a door, and he's like, I'm going to bite off every single one of these fingers one at a time. The granddaughter, the casting choice was okay. She was
fine.
Terribly written. I didn't like who they casted to be her actual daughter.
Judy Greer?
Who was also in Jurassic World.
Jurassic World, yeah.
She just felt miscast to me.
She had some really dry readings. Yeah.
There's one line where she's reminiscing about her childhood, and she's looking to the distance saying, I used to shoot a gun, and I didn't like it, and I'm reading off a cue card right now, like this is an outtake, but they're going to include it in the movie. And it felt really bizarre. I was like, whoa, what is happening right now?
Oh my god. You're right. You're right. I wish I had the movie so I could include that clip. I really wish I did.
It's exactly like that.
So disappointing.
They don't-
I wanted to love this movie. I really fucking did, dude. I was so excited when it started. I was fucking there, man. I was ready.
Oh, this was my most anticipated movie of October. I was like, my whole life was dedicated to watching this movie. I was very disappointed.
Oh, well, that's Halloween 2018. Disappointing movie.
Disappointing.
I get that some people really seem to like it. I'm just not one of those people. I wanted more.
A few good ideas, but overshadowed by a lot of bad ones.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks always for joining me.
Thank you.
Look forward to more reviews in this section of Halloween scary movies we're going to be doing this October. Thank you guys as always for watching, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.